time for PetSylvania with Dr. Bob Esplin. Dr. Bob guides you through the latest veterinary techniques and procedures to keep your pets in the best of health. PetSylvania is brought to you by Elanco, maker of Trifexis and Comfortis. With your ears up and tails wagging, here is Dr. Bob.
Hello, pet lovers. Dr. Bob. I'm happy to be here with this week's edition of PetSylvania. And I always want to remind you, please send questions to me at requests@wsylradio.com because I love to be able to incorporate those into each program. Our sponsors, we couldn't be here without them, so I'm always happy to introduce you to the four sponsors that are responsible for putting me on the air. Esplin Medical, which is a maker of an importer of a high-quality premium surgical scrub made of 55% bamboo, 25% cotton, and only 20% poly. They are soft, they breathe, they are naturally antimicrobial, they're environmentally friendly. You can learn more about Esplin Medical scrubs at www.esplinmedical.com. Elanco, the makers of Trifexis, it is their advertising's on TV now. It'd be hard to miss it. I've seen it multiple times, and I'm not watching that much TV. Trifexis is really the newest generation of heartworm prevention, internal parasite prevention, and flea control in a once-a-month pill that is very safe, well tolerated by the majority of the dogs. Very small number of dogs have any side effects, as any animal would have a side effect to an active medication. It's a great product. And one of the cool things is about Sylvania Vet is that we challenge you to find a practice that has a better price for Trifexis, and then we actually take responsibility for seeing that you get the rebate. And if you buy 6 Trifexis, the rebate is $10. And if you buy 12 Trifexis, which is a year's supply, and we want you to use it year-round, the rebate is $25, and we see to it that it gets submitted, so you don't have to worry about keeping that receipt and sending it in and meeting all the rules. We do it for you. Hills, the makers of Science Diet. The name really says it all. It is scientifically formulated by professional nutrition researchers, and not only when it's formulated is it done in a scientific manner, but there's an ongoing research into the existing products and new products so that they can actually improve something that's out there. There's only a few companies that do that, and Hills is a leader. They are also makers of a prescription diet line, which are disease-specific diets. So they make special diets for kidney disease, heart disease, hyperthyroid treatment. We've talked about that. And later we'll talk a little bit about metabolic diet, which is the game changer as far as weight loss is concerned. And then, of course, my office, Sylvania Vet, the 24/7, 365 pet care destination. Just a couple of things. We're the only vet that answers their phone 24/7. Sylvania Vet's the only one with a doctor on call 24/7. Sylvania Vet's the only practice that allows 24/7 visitation. We've actually had clients spend the night with their ill or injured animal. We're the only vet that can admit or release 24/7. We have people dropping, leaving early out of Detroit on a plane trip, and they'll drop their animal off for boarding at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and as long as we have advance notice of that, that's not a big deal. They come in late and they stop and they want to get their pet before they head home, and we've released animals at midnight, 1-2 o'clock in the morning, again with advance notice so that we're prepared for that. That's not a big deal. I challenge you to find it probably pretty much anywhere in the country, but certainly anywhere in the area that kind of service is available. So don't you think that every pet should have a 24/7 doctor? Sylvania Vet was voted recently by Toledo Family News as the best vet for the second year in a row, and that couples with our Toledo City paper best vet 6 years in a row. So the public is learning more and more about Sylvania Vet. Check us out. Learn more about us either on our website, www.sylvaniavet.com, or go to 13abc.com. get connected and see the 3-minute video that tells you a lot about Sylvania Vet. I had the pleasure yesterday afternoon of going uptown, and they had the downtown Sylvania businesses had an open house basically for all the businesses, and you could walk up and down the street and visit with your friends and go in, and there were sales. And one of the reasons I went uptown was that a client of Sylvania Vet, Debbie Kahn, just opened a pet boutique in downtown Sylvania at the corner of Main and Maplewood, and she makes she started with her making a really attractive, well-made, beautiful, custom-made dog beds and cat beds, and she's now got those in a retail space along with other pet-friendly types of advice. It's called the House of Smoochie, SMUCCI, and it's at 5693 Main Street. Debbie is a great supporter of area rescues, and so part of her mission is going to be to use her retail outlet as a way of helping promote animal rescue as well. So stop in, look around. Downtown Sylvania is a really fun place. Starting in early June, they're going to have on Thursday nights, they're going to have a farmer's market up there. Sometime early in June, there's also going to be a car show all along Main Street, and it's absolutely worth going up. Downtown Sylvania is a great place, and I would encourage you to support the businesses in downtown Sylvania. You know, I'm nearly fully recovered from my surgery, and actually I'm planning on going back to work on May the 20th, and so I'm pretty excited about that. Not only did I have bypass surgery of my heart, but I had carotid artery surgery as well. So when I come back, I'm only coming back part-time, but I'll gradually increase that to the point where the encouragement of my wife, we're going to put a little more balance in my life, and I'm going to try to be home a little bit more and at the office a little bit less, let my very capable staff carry some of the day-to-day responsibilities. But I hope to go back and ultimately work 4 days a week, a total of about 36 hours a week, along with some business meeting times added in there, but hopefully I won't devote all my time and all my energy to Sylvania Vet. It's kind of hard because it's really my passion as well as my profession, so I really like it. Hip dysplasia is a condition that we can see in literally almost every dog. Now, it's commonly associated with German Shepherds and Labradors and Golden Retrievers and the larger breed dogs, but the reality is that I've seen hip dysplasia and have diagnosed hip dysplasia in miniature poodles and miniature pinschers and lots of other smaller breed dogs as well. It's just not as common. Hip dysplasia is an inherited condition of the hip joint development that causes what's known as subluxation. Subluxation is a partial dislocation of the hip joint. The hip joint also doesn't form as well. If you think about the hip joint as a ball and socket joint, the hip has what should be a really narrow, deep cup that the head of the femur sits in, and that cup is called the acetabulum, and then the ball, the head of the femur, sits in there, and it should sit in there snugly without a lot of room for movement. In a dysplastic hip, it's much looser. The cup is not so much like a cup, it's more like a saucer. It tends to be flatter. And then ultimately, hip dysplasia it certainly causes pain, but it'll ultimately cause degenerative joint disease, osteoarthritis, and there's lots of ways that we manage those, but in the early stages, dogs have difficulty climbing and jumping, getting in and out of the car. Maybe even going up a step can be a problem. A lot of times, if you look at them walking, if the dogs have both legs are dysplastic, you can watch them walk, and you can almost see this looseness and it's kind of wiggly gait in the back end. Those are things that can concern us right away. Hip dysplasia is diagnosed through X-rays, and then if you're shopping for a puppy, particularly in the large breed dogs, it's really important that you talk about, have you had your mother and the father and maybe some generations prior to that screened for hip dysplasia. It's time to take a break, and we'll be back. In one of the journals that I was reading, there was an article that brought out some concerns about early age spays and neuters. We're not talking exclusively about the spays and neuters that are being done by many area rescues at a very young age, and I mean I'm talking about 6, 7, 8-week-old puppies and kittens that are being spayed. But this was all dog related from the standpoint of some side effects. But there's building evidence that neutering before sexual maturity, so that could mean that the dog shouldn't be neutered, spayed or neutered until after it's a year old or potentially older. That they're seeing an increase in hip dysplasia. They're seeing in these early age neuters, they're also seeing an increase in ruptured anterior cruciate ligaments. In the golden retriever, they're seeing what they feel may be an increase in lymphosarcoma, which is cancer of the lymphatics. It's kind of interesting. I did one study, and these are retrospective studies. There's no scientific method applied to this. These are just statistical studies, but they found that in Rottweilers, 4.6 times better chance of living to be 13 if they were not spayed or neutered until after they were 6 years old. The same thing in golden retrievers, and there the cutoff was a year. And I think that you're balancing that information against what kinds of behavioral changes develop in a dog that's not spayed or neutered before they have their first heat cycle or before sexual maturity. How are you going to deal with the urine marking of the male dog, or the aggression, territorialness of the male dog, or the mess of heat cycles and the unwanted pregnancies that can occur if you're not being really super careful? So I mean that's a problem. We know that intact males have increased prostate gland disease if they remain intact long enough, and that females will have increased chances of mammary tumors and pyometra, which is an infectious-like condition of the uterus. So there's not a clear-cut answer, but it's certainly something that the profession needs to pay much closer attention to. And so you're just going to have to make those decisions, something to think about as neutering is recommended. Obesity in pets, it's suspected that maybe as many as 70% of our pets are overweight, and probably half of them are what would be considered obese. And we know that obesity causes increased joint pain, increased respiratory problems, increased incidence of diabetes, increased incidence of heart disease. And how do you control it? Well, it's really pretty simple when you really boil it down to it. It's just do we have the discipline to do it? You control the calories. You feed multiple small meals rather than one large meal. You can actually eat the right amount of calories, but if you eat it all in one meal, you may very well gain weight. And this is true of people as well. That's why in humans, they're talking about multiple small meals every day. Measuring the food becomes important, and watching the treats. I always tell clients, no table food. So what part of no don't you understand? I always say no table food. But watch the treats. There are literally some treats out there that you might give to your large breed dog that have over 600 calories in them. And that's the equivalent of almost 2 cups of dog food. That would be like sitting down and eating an entire apple pie in one sitting. Might taste good, but it certainly wouldn't do that waistline. It wouldn't do that waistline any good at all. So you can definitely control and get weight loss in your dog if you just manage the food, and if you know how many calories are in a cup of food and you calculate the calories, and that calculation is based on some scientific rationale behind how much the dog should truly weigh. Most of us think that ideally weighted dogs are too skinny, and so we have to change our mindset as to what is really an ideal looking body condition on a dog. We need to thin it down a little bit. Same probably is true for all of us. And then that brings us into Hill's new diet, the metabolic diet. Truly an awesome product. The great thing about metabolic diet is that you don't have to do anything differently than you were doing as long as you've been measuring food. But all you have to do is feed metabolic diet as the exclusive diet, measure it, and give it at the amount that's been recommended based on body measurements, and your dog will lose weight. Your cat will lose weight. We've seen it happen. We see it happening at the office right now with multiple animals that are on metabolic diet. I would strongly encourage you to think about going to metabolic diet if you've tried weight loss programs on your pet and they failed, or the minute they came off of it, their weight went back up. To come off more slowly the next time around, metabolic diet may be the answer for you. I think it's a true game changer, and metabolic diet actually turns fat-burning genes that have been shut off by hormones secreted by the body fat of self-preservation hormones that the body fat secretes. It actually shuts down fat-burning genes. The metabolic diet actually turns those genes back on, and so that's a huge game changer. It's a completely different way of approaching weight loss in our pets. A lot of times people will come in and they'll talk to me about lumps and bumps on their pet, and they'll call them warts. And yes, warts do exist. And interestingly enough, warts are caused by what's known as the papillomavirus. And so warts are actually a contagious growth on the skin. They're not a malignancy, they're not a cancer, but they're a contagious growth, and they look a little bit like a head of cauliflower. And a lot of times you'll find them on the lips and inside the lip, on the gums of the dog for whatever reason, probably because of that intimate contact with dogs licking and mouthing each other and wrestling and fighting and doing those things. And we'll see those. And if your dog goes to daycare and it has a wart, it should not be at daycare. And a good daycare will tell a client to please don't bring your dog back until the warts are gone. And then we have a variety of ways that we remove warts, and frequently we're able to get those warts removed and return the animal to daycare fairly quickly. Other growths that we see a lot of are lumpy, bumpy things that we call lipomas, and you can tell. Oftentimes I'll feel that and I'll say, "Oh, I think that's a lipoma." Well, the reality is that I've been fooled a few times. So if there's any uncertainty in my mind at all, or if you want to be absolutely certain, I would always say, let's stick a needle in that. And that's called a fine needle aspirate. Let's take a look at it and see if it truly is a fatty tumor. Other little cysts that we'll see on the skin that they're kind of oily and greasy, those are called keratinaceous cysts. And they too look a little bit like a head of cauliflower, but they're oily and greasy. And dogs can get dozens of these, and they can be a real problem. And it's kind of when they get a lot of them, because if they're getting groomed, they can get snagged by the grooming scissors and the clippers. Generally, we only remove keratinaceous cysts if they're causing a problem, because there just can be just so many of them. And another rationale behind sticking a needle in a lump is that if we're not sure what it is to determine that it's not a mast cell tumor. Mast cell tumors are tumors that produce histamine, and they can be very severe, and we want to know if they are mast cell tumors, and if they are, we want to get them off. Kennel cough is a condition that is bandied about, and many people will say, well, my dog never goes to the kennel, so there isn't any worry. Well, the reality is that it really should be called canine cough or tracheobronchitis, because the dog can get this disease in any number of ways: going to the groomer, going to the pet store, going to the boarding clinic, going to the park, walking in the neighborhood, just in the backyard. It's such a widespread condition, and there are actually 6 to 8 different organisms that cause tracheobronchitis or canine cough-like signs, that it can be really difficult. We vaccinate against the common parts, Bordetella, parainfluenza, adenovirus type 2, and canine influenza, but there are still others. So if your dog comes in with a cough, we're going to run a diagnostic test, and the good news for you is it's free, and we're going to be able to tell what organism is actually causing that canine cough. And so that's new for us to be able to do this test for free. We're really thrilled to be able to do that. So we'll move forward in that area, but we recommend that your dog be vaccinated against the common conditions of canine cough, kennel cough, with the 4 things that I mentioned. It's time for a break, and we'll be back. right, here we are back to wrap it up. And when I wrote this part of the broadcast today, I thought, it sounds like I may have already recommended this, but even if I have, it's worth mentioning again. There are two really fun YouTube videos that you ought to go check out. And when you go to YouTube on the internet, you can just put shark cat on a Roomba, and you're going to watch this cat that's been dressed in a shark costume, sitting on a remote control vacuum, and it's moving around in the room, and there's a little duckling in there, and it's like the Roomba is chasing this duckling. It's destined to bring a smile to your face. It'll be very enjoyable. I showed it to my granddaughter last weekend when we were in Harleysville, Pennsylvania, and she wanted to look at it every night. She thought it was just the funniest thing ever. And then another one is there's an exotic pet that I've never seen, quite frankly, and I didn't even know existed until I heard about this. But it's called a fennec fox, and it's a little exotic animal in the fox family, and it's up on a sofa, and it's playing with a dog, a Papillon dog, and it's a lot. Again, it's a lot of fun to watch, but I think when you watch it, you get a really sense of the intensity of this fennec fox's activity level and what it might take if you were to have one to try to keep it settled down and fully exercised. And so I really don't encourage most families to get a fennec fox. It's something you've really got to consider about the fact that, do I have the time to enrich this animal? And likewise, you have to remember it is an exotic pet, and so it's not like having a cat or a dog. These are not domesticated animals. Want to thank Elanco, makers of Trifexis. Sylvania Vet has the best prices in the area. We challenge you to find a practice with a better price, and then we of course take care of submitting so that you get your rebate. Hill's, the maker of Science Diet, and the prescription diet line, of which the YD for the treatment of hyperthyroidism and metabolic diet for the game changer in weight loss are two of those top-notch products in the prescription diet line. You're going to get those through the veterinarian. Esplin Medical, the makers of environmentally friendly scrubs that are 55% bamboo, 25% cotton, and only 20% polyester. They are so comfortable, it is like wearing pajamas. I can tell you, they don't irritate like a regular pair of scrubs, and they breathe, so they're cooler and more comfortable to wear. They're just more comfortable across the board. You can get those. We have those for sale at Sylvania Vet. You can also get them at Toledo Family Pharmacy, and then you can go online at esplinmedical.com and order directly. And then Sylvania Vet, we want to encourage you to go to our website, learn all about what we have on the website, www.sylvaniavet.com. We are located at 4801 Holland, Sylvania, at the south end of Haroon, just down the road from Flower Hospital. And you can call us at 419-885-4421. We had an adopt-a-thon scheduled for the 19th, and we've had to cancel it because we recognized too late, unfortunately, that that conflicts with the Bark in the Park at the Humane Society. So I want to encourage you to go to Bark in the Park. Sylvania Vet will be there. A number of area rescues are going to be there. It's a great time. It's a lot of fun. They do a fun. There's vendors, and there's it should just have an awful lot of fun at Bark in the Park, and meeting a lot of area rescues and animals and other animal-related businesses. With that said, there's only one greatest pet, and it lives in your home.
You have been listening to PetSylvania with Dr. Bob Esplin on WSYLradio.com. PetSylvania is brought to you by Elanco, maker of Trifexis and Comfortis. Tune in every Saturday at 10 a.m. as Dr. Bob explains the latest in veterinary care and answers your questions. You can email your pet questions to requests@WSYLradio.com, and Dr. Bob will answer them on a future show.